Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and KISMA. I'm KISMA, and today's episode is Cosmic Peace. Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and KISMA, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can have the mindset to get your life and business set.
As always, thank you for tuning in. And if you're new to the podcast, take a quick second to hit the subscribe button in iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. If you want to get the inside info for this and every episode, as well as some free gifts, go to illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. And now let's dive in to get your mindset for your life and business set. I like this one already.
Anything cosmic we tend to like.
Cosmic peace. Like, what? Why? What?
What was that big sigh in the microphone for?
It's just so like it.
I thought we were podcasting.
We're podcasting. I mean, it just made me think of like, oh yeah, cosmic peace. Like it's just something else. Like we can think about something else. And
well, this is last week. Our episode was how to anchor the peace within. It was more practical application about choosing to turn the noise down, choosing to not get into arguments and all of that stuff. And today we're going to raise it up into more of the cosmic nature.
Thus the sigh.
So when we think about what happens to our human in the world, you know, we've got the physical, we've got our body, we've got our brain firing in so many ways. We've got our emotions, our heart going off. We've got actions that we take or we don't take. And somewhere we start to get really embedded in the world, in the physical world, in the day-to-day, and what is often referred to in the spiritual teachings as the mundane. And once we're stuck in the mundane, it's actually difficult to find peace, because the peace, the cosmic peace, is when we're able to be in the world, do what we're here to do, but elevate ourselves out of what is often referred to as the pairs of opposites.
I think that's a place where like that's a super key distinction. So most people think of peace as nothing that I don't want to be happening is happening and things are not disturbing me.
Things aren't disturbing me.
Right.
Well, guess what? We're in the world.
and yeah, and I've there's nothing happening in my little world that is like what I don't want to be happening or is really bothering me. Mm-hmm. And so that's what people think of as peace. You know, I'm good.
Everything's status quo.
Yeah, status quo.
Nothing's shaking.
Yeah, things are kind of going the way that I'd like them to go, right? And that's good. Nothing necessarily wrong with that. But cosmic peace is something very different. By nature, it's something very different. And that's really what we're talking about here. The first thing that comes to mind for me is when people are going for something like this, like what's the first step? Like, what's the first step for somebody to take?
It's a very powerful step. It's a step that a lot of people do not want to take. It can be an uncomfortable step, but it will be the step that liberates you out of what I call the false sense of self. And that is an intense examination at where your weaknesses lie, your negativity of self or the world lies. Basically, we'll just position as like, look at where your weaknesses are, because we're seeking strength, right? To have cosmic peace, to have peace in anything, we need a certain amount of strength. We need a strength of intellect. We need to be resolved in our will to choose this. So when you're able to look at your weaknesses and do so lovingly, that's when the strength follows. The strength will not come if the weaknesses are not observed and made aware of first. Right? It's like, you got to see what isn't working, guys. You got to notice in yourself what isn't serving you and be willing to, I'm sliding that over so that I can slide something in. It's just like, you can't have an old chair that's torn up and a brand new chair in the same spot in the same way. You're going to have to remove that chair in order to bring in the new chair.
So the awareness of what's not working.
The awareness of what is not working, the awareness of, again, what I call the false sense of self, is like where you're getting into the mental stories, where you're getting tethered into the beliefs and the paradigms, where you're giving meaning to everything and taking things personally because someone does something that you don't like and you put meaning onto it. So think about, if you're able to rise above the pair of opposites, it won't affect you as much if somebody's doing what you want or not, because you're above that. But when you're in this world of opposites and you're attached to something being a certain way, when it doesn't go that way, it's an easy tip. That is not cosmic peace.
No, that's not cosmic peace. That's temporary. That's temporary peace, and very temporary at that.
Well, tipping, no, is going to be stressful and agitation.
Well, eventually, it'll always wind up in that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so sooner or later. And it'll tip in a big way or it'll tip in a small way, but it'll tip because it's dependent. It's peace that is dependent upon
an external source,
something outside. So the first thing is to be aware.
To be aware and to be willing, like to be willing to examine. It's a great exercise. I'm actually teaching it to the School of Prosperous Thought people in a deeper way this week. But the outline of it for all of you listening is, when you're going about your day and something happens where you start to become agitated or negative or unruly, like you really start to get frazzled, try to bring yourself to a screeching halt and just watch it. Don't change it. Don't force it. Just watch and observe yourself as if you're in an out-of-body experience, observing yourself like really going sideways. Because until you can see and observe yourself in what that is doing to your energetic field, to your mindset, to your body, you won't be inspired to change it. So you become this witness of your own self, kind of making a lot of drama and trauma just because the world didn't do what you wanted it to do.
So basically, wake up to the games that you're playing.
Wake up to the games you're playing and to the habitual responses and reactions. Because so often when we do react a certain way, when we have the sense of negativity or the trigger or the tip or whatever you want to call it, it has become habitual. It's just like something gets triggered and that's what you go. It's what you know that you do. It's where your subconscious mind tries to take you. You've got to see it. You've got to know that is part of yourself in this 3D world in order to elevate up into the spiritual world. Because a spiritual mindset, spirituality is like this attitude, right? It's not how many candles you light at church or what beads you're wearing or temple. It's an attitude. And to have that attitude, we've got to slide out the things that are affecting us.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Well, the spirituality, especially with respect to cosmic peace, like suddenly that becomes escaping the world. You know, I'm going to go travel dimensions, or I'm going to astral travel or something like that. Like these are different things. And it's important because I know that people are interested in those kinds of things. People want to have a better experience. They want to have spiritual experiences. They want to have things like that. But what you're talking about with cosmic peace seems to be inherently different from those experiences as well.
It's a really good question. There are so many experiences people can have. I mean, you can go microdosing, you can do ayahuasca, you can channel vortex and talk to aliens. I personally don't do any of that because I don't find any of that spiritual. Their experiences. To me, a true spiritual essence and ability to have that cosmic peace is to be able to govern yourself as you are at any moment and any time. So if you need something to be able to find the peace, it isn't a true peace that you have access to, in my humble opinion. So the cosmic peace is being able to understand who you really are, which is this self within, a self with a capital S. It's to understand that the universal substance is running through you and it's around you. The God spark is in you. All of that exists. You don't need a drug or a fast breathing process or whatever to bring it out. It exists. It's the awareness and it's the capacity that allows you a greater feeling of connection because you're not disconnected. So the cosmic peace is finding and realizing that first, at least having that sense of, whoa, maybe it is there. Maybe it is all inside, and I just need to move the external stuff, not rely on the external stuff, rise above these pairs of opposites of the world and go within and find it there.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to that because yes, but something that you do that I think maybe a lot of people don't understand that you do is you have built the energetic capacity to have that and to hold that. Okay? And so this is a really important part of the path. Your energy matters. You know, if you think about yourself as a container and you want to have this cosmic peace, well, certainly that's not going to happen when you're being pushed and pulled by the world. Just go back and listen to the last episode or any number of other episodes that we've recorded on those sorts of things, is to, you know, to just tame the chaos and what's going on in the world and what that is doing inside of us. But beyond that, spiritual energy is intense. And having a container to hold that within your energy and to hold the space within that takes an expansiveness and a resiliency to that, to be able to have that in the world that we live in.
That's true.
That's where the path, like being on the path, becomes very, very important. Working on your energy absolutely matters to that. Like your energy isn't like an afterthought that comes after you've attained all the spiritual things. The energy is something that is used to support that. So people talk to me like they're like spiritual healing, like, you know, like they think of energy healing as spiritual healing. I don't conflate those two. Energy healing is working with energy, and it's not, there's nothing inherently spiritual about your energy. It's just energy.
Well, I would disagree with that. I think there's everything inherently spiritual about your energy. And I would also say that by having that spiritual mindset and awareness, you are cleansing your energy as you go, because you can't see it if you're staying congested.
It's the attitude behind it, for sure. Yeah. That's why I say there's nothing inherently spiritual about it. Like, you can just clean up your energy with the mind of, hey, I want to feel better in the world and I want to heal my body. That's great. There's nothing inherently spiritual about that. There's something very spiritual about it when you understand that I'm doing this so that I can have access to a greater level of truth, more clarity in my spiritual life, and more alignment to what really matters for me.
Yeah. I still come back to seeking the path and having the awareness that there is an existence within you. Like, if everyone, you just pause and understand that, you know, you hear it all the time. Everything you need resides within you to have success or failure. What the great teachers are talking about is, where are you putting your thoughts? And of course, where are you putting your energy, right? That awareness is going to grow. And there is this fabulous array of cosmic wonderness inside of you that you have access to the universal intelligence space. And that takes you you can access it easier when you untether yourself to the world, when you give less meaning to what you believe someone should do, or when you give less meaning to when someone reacts to you a certain way. Every time you take something personally, you're tethering to that. You're giving it energy. Every time you label an event bad, you're giving it energy to be badder. Your cosmic self isn't good, bad. It just is. It's rising up to a new level of good, so to speak. It's rising up to this all, and you know, the universe doesn't have lack energy. The universe doesn't have fear energy. The universe doesn't have bad energy. It's something we as humans, through our conditioned personalities and our minds, we put in. We label things, and then we have these beliefs. So it's just, if you just imagine you're just reaching way down to your soul, and you're elevating yourself out of where you are tethered and where you're relying on happiness, on somebody else and something else, and you're willing to seek it in really the most simplest ways internally.
Simple's always better. Simple makes all the difference in the world. The little things that we do, it's not necessarily, and I think that's a really important part about what you're saying, is that, like, it's not necessarily the cosmic piece is not like the big cosmic thing necessarily. It's where we find it in the little moments and the little things that pull us back down.
Well, there's a beautiful teaching that your level's wrong. I would say your access to a spiritual attitude will determine the expression you need from the world to see a miracle. You know, if you're not spiritually aware, you're going to need to see, you know, Niagara Falls or, I don't know, like 5
something
comets,
super spectacular.
Super spectacular. When you've developed the spiritual attitude, when you really understand the miracles everywhere, that's when you go outside and you see not a rose, but the petal on the rose, and you're in complete awe. Because you understand that you just keep tracing it back, like who created that, who created that, who created that. And this isn't about being in awe and checked out of your life. It's about being in awe and wonderment of everything that you have access to that is incredible, in spite of the world doing the world. Because the world's going to be a lot easier to manage, everyone, if you focus on what is incredible within you and around you and in the universe.
Yeah, it made me think about cats, because you're saying like to see the wonder and the awe in that, you know, and there's these beautiful things that inspire wonder and awe. But I think there's also the side where it's like just having wonder and awe at the world. So, okay, you've got your cute little kitty and your kitty's outside and your kitty gets a rodent. I had this when I was young. I had this cat named Brownie. And spring was always terrible because Brownie would catch little rabbits. Like, he was a really great hunter, especially with no claws. He'd catch these little rabbits, and we'd try to always save the rabbits. Like, we were so disturbed by this. And I don't know that, you know, he was pretty angry about that, about the ones that we saved. But we felt good about it. But regardless, as we look at this scene and we're horrified by it. Like, oh my God, the little bunny. Like, I have to save the bunny. And save the bunny or don't save the bunny, but you look at it with like awe. Like, and the awe for me is like that cat, like that is programmed, like it's so amazing that it's programmed into him. You know, like we didn't teach the cat how to do that. We brought the cat up indoors and it found its way out. It loved the fields and it would go out there and it would hunt every day because that's what it does. And there's something kind of, in my mind, there's something kind of awe-inspiring that it doesn't have to be about something really amazing. We can actually look at other things. We can look at people. We can look at people who are struggling. We can look at things that people are going through. We can look at some of the chaos that we're creating in our world and look at like, wow, this is such an amazing display of cause and effect that's playing out every moment to every day. Like, how fascinating is that? And
yet what can happen is when we become too tethered to watching all of the stuff in the world, we miss what's happening right inside of us, which is really the true cosmic peace. So yeah, you might label the cat as a hunter as bad, or you might label it as awe, but it's kind of being like, okay, that's the world, right? This is the world. It is happening around us. And then just being able to say, what would happen if just for a day I walked around, I didn't care, I didn't label, I didn't get attached, I was just being, and I was being at the level of that which I wanted to create. And there's a sense of letting go. There's a sense of letting go of having to control, of having to label. There's a sense of letting go of mental stories in this place of, I'm going to be the cosmic peace that I know resides within me, that resides around me. And guys, like right now, have that kind of thought process, because that's the process that's going to get you through and beyond this pandemic that we are still witnessing exists. That's the thought process that's going to get you through and beyond the election that, as we talked about last week, we're putting such labels of if this happens or that happens. No, you have this amazing, precious life, and you have access to this cosmic wonderment and peace. Use that and focus on that right now and move forward with that forevermore. And you will be far less bothered by other people, by the world, and you will not be checking out because you have responsibilities. You have purpose and passion here in the world, but you'll do it with more lightness and joy. You will reach results way faster.
Yeah, that's it.
I should say reach your goals, reach your desired manifestations way faster.
Right. What you want to create in the world. That was an important part. If you missed that last episode, like a really important part that we talked about was shrinking the time horizon, right? And not being able to think past a particular event. And what KISMA is describing is is thinking beyond time and thinking about what experience we want to have in our lives. You can go for temporary peace, like, and just to have everything be okay. And I think that's a worthy goal, you know, to have peace in your life and to share peace in your life. I think that's really wonderful. Or you can go for the cosmic peace. And it's really just to choose your own adventure of what kind of experience you want to have for yourself. You know, cosmic peace.
Let's do it, everyone. So look, one of the ways that you start is be willing to observe yourself. Avoid judging yourself when you observe, but just notice where you go into tipping points, where you get triggered, where those weaknesses start brewing. And then remind yourself there's another way that you can actually, you know, I like to tell my students this is like you just kind of imagine you've got that in your hand and you throw it in the trash. It's just like you just throw it away and you embody and you receive this essence of calm and certainty that is coming from a way higher spiritual being than you could ever imagine. And just start there. Start with the awareness and trying to move that heavy stuff out of the way and embodying the higher. And you'll be surprised how, as you repeat it, it becomes easier and easier and easier.
Better and better.
Better and better. So if you know anybody that would love this episode on Cosmic Peace, please share it. Please send it. Head on over to iTunes and give us a little rating and review. We so appreciate you for listening to Illumination Podcast with Nick and KISMA.
Peace.
Namaste. Hey, thanks for jamming with us today. And if you enjoy Illumination Podcast, please go ahead and share it with someone you love. Give us a rating, review, download our podcast. And remember, you can find us at illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. Talk to you soon. Namaste.